Hi, I'm Jane, and in this lecture, we're going to talk about digital education, most specifically the benefits and drawbacks of digital learning. Okay, so here are our objectives for today that I would like you to attain in our lecture. The first thing is I would like you, if possible, to gain knowledge on what digital education is and, of course, its importance in education. And secondly, I would like you to be familiar with the different pros and cons that I'm going to talk about so that in the future, if you're going to meet these kinds of terms, concepts, or problems, at least you know what to do with this kind of situation. Okay, so let's start. So, to begin with, actually, digital education and learning is not that new to us since the concept of this method was actually used in Great Britain, where the educators send lesson to their students and their students or the learners try to complete their assignments through the email or by means of sending to their emails. Now, in our generation, it is actually the modernized way of digital education wherein we try to leverage the internet with our technology, isn't it? So, in other words, even in the past, they already actually started digital education through or by means of sending what they have learned through their emails and vice versa. So, the teacher and the learner are sending the topic or the homeworks that they have through the emails. Okay, now what is digital education? The first definition of digital education is it's a kind of like a system which revolutionized the old chalk and board process of learning in the classroom, right? So, in other words, digital education actually removed little by little the way on how teachers use the chalkboard in the classroom. Secondly, it is also known as the technology enhanced learning or digital learning, right? Actually, this term is not new to us since we already use technology when it comes to educating our students, right? And even when it comes to learning something through the use of different gadgets and technology around us. And another important concept is the concept of digital learning, which is, of course, facilitated with the usage of technology, which offers the students some factors of command over the place, time, pace, and of course, their path. So, what I'm trying to say here is that they can actually learn something, anything, anywhere they want to go. And time pace, it's up to them when they would like to learn. It's up to them on their own free time, of course. And lastly, and their own path means if they're actually kind of like a slow learner, it's up to them on how they can catch up with the subject matter. So the point there is that when it comes to digital learning, the good thing there is that they can actually manage their own place, time, and even their progress when it comes to learning a certain concept. So those are, or that one is just one of the good thing when it comes to digital education. Okay. Another thing about digital education is it has made learning mobile interactive and engaging. At the same time, it is something which is very motivating to the students and it actually makes them learn more and it actually gets their attention more if they learn digitally. However, of course, they have to maintain it. Now, these days, most of the schools and institutions are trying to adopt this kind of technology as a solution, while the traditional education system is, of course, suspended for some times because, of course, of the current situation that we have these days. So, as you can see, digital education these days is actually very crucial. So, the knowledge about this concept is very important for educators and learners to know because this kind of system will be beneficial for sure in the long run for both the educator and the student. Okay, so aside from that concept, what I want actually to say in general is that when it comes to digital education and digital learning, it is actually something which is only used to enhance learning. And of course, it's not simply to continue it via digital means. So while people often think that digital learning is just the use of digital tools in the classroom, it actually oversimplifies and it fails to capture the whole concept and the whole purpose of digital education. Now, in the next part of this lecture, I'm going to talk about the clear explanation on why learning digital education or why learning digitally is important. So I would like you to listen very carefully so that you can get some reasons on why this could be very beneficial for you and, of course, your students. Okay, so the first reason on why digital learning is important, first thing is because it is a personal learning. Now, the question there is, how can we make digital learning personalized? What can the teacher possibly do? Now, the educators actually can answer this kind or they can solve this kind of situation by means of course of customizing the curriculum based on the students' learning speed and capability. But of course, I agree that that one is only possible if, of course, you only have few students in the classroom. And another thing, personalized learning normally involves students in deciding their own learning process, right? That's why it is personalized because the teacher can actually design the subject matter, design the activities, and make the curriculum, of course, based on the level of the student that she is handling. Okay. Now, customizing actually the learning of the student would surely and highly help the teacher determine the needs of the students. At this point, of course, the teachers would know how to handle the teacher's capabilities. So these, the one that you can see here, are just actually some of the examples on how we can do personalized learning, such as sharing goal setting, which can actually help the students develop motivation and reliability. Another example is by means of engaging self assessment, which can actually help the student develop self reflective ability, right? And another example is by determining their best learning activities, it could actually help the students develop their self advocacy skills. Okay, now learning tools and technology actually allow the students to grow effective, self directed learning skills. The students are capable of analyzing what they require to learn to search and of course, use various online resources. But still, of course, with the help of an adult and with their teachers when it comes to finding good online resources that they can find in learning deeply about a certain subject matter. So, as you can see, digital learning enlarges their efficiency and productivity in some ways, right? Furthermore, the digital learning is actually appealing to the students because of the tools and technology that we can actually use in making them learn more using this kind of learning. Now, according to some researches, digital learning is actually helpful to sharpen critical thinking skills, which are actually the basis for the growth of systematic reasoning. Of course, again, with the proper guidance of the educators and the parents of the learners, right? Okay, so that's the reason why they said that digital learning can make the students smarter. Okay, now let's move on to another reason on why digital learning is important. Okay, according to some observation of some educators and teachers, the more that they learn digitally or virtually, the more that they are more motivated to learn something new. Why? Because it's something which is very interesting for them. Now, students who learn using digital tools and technology, they said, become more engaged in the method and more interested in developing their knowledge base or their foundation about a certain concept or idea. Therefore, what I'm trying to say is the digital learning makes it actually very interactive for them and memorable than the generous or very thick books, which are quite tiring for them to read. Okay. Sometimes one sided lecture can also make them feel tired in learning a certain concept. So, this kind of old or traditional way of learning or teaching them, sometimes, if not used properly, will make them not learn or will make them very anxious or have lack of motivation in learning a certain concept. As a result, the good thing with this one is that digital learning permits the students to better connect with their learning materials. Okay, so I hope the question about what makes learners motivated is answered with this discussion. Okay, next one. Another reason on why digital learning is important is because of expanded learning opportunities. Now, the question there is, how can digital learning expand the learning prospects of the students? Well, there are actually many answers to that question. So it's up to you on how you can find that out. But based on some observations and researches, again, the digital learning is extending the learning opportunities to the students so that the students can grasp or understand or comprehend the fact that they are actually learning inside the classroom. So, if that's the case, therefore, learning can occur in various times and even in several places. And aside from that, digital learning will also allow this varied learning opportunities, right? The students can learn many new things from digital tools and even technology. Now, with the help of technology and internet resources, good educational internet resources, of course, students can absorb innovative trends and things where they can actually learn various topics, ideas, and concepts in the subject matter that they are learning. Okay, now another reason on why digital learning is important is it's because it develops responsibility in students. So the big question there is, how can digital learning develop responsibility in students? Is it even possible? Well, the digital education system makes the assessment of each and every student much more transparent and informative with the real time examination of performance and auto generated reports. We actually have many learning management systems which we can actually use and show our students their scores and even the reason on why their score is either very high or very low. We can actually make it very transparent using this kind of education system. Now, with this kind of thing, sometimes it offers the students the capability to measure their performance in detail and come up with a relevant solution, of course, in their part. Now, this learning or this kind of digital learning can be self-directed when, of course, students can learn online. Eventually, they can get the finest researching topic and get useful information by browsing through a lot of information online. So if they do this kind of things on their own, thus it can also develop responsibility in or with the students, right? Okay. And they said another reason on why digital learning is important is that it is very engaging. Mhm. Now, how can digital learning help students to be more involved and at the same time, of course, engage and interact together in the class, whereas they are actually not in a mortar and brick kind of classroom, right? Now, the digital education system provides a wide variety of options for the students, of course, to learn from. From or through digital education, there are actually limitless availability of images and, of course, educational video content, virtual reality, interactive sessions with their classmates and even with their teacher, and many more make the digital learning method more interesting and smooth for the students to grasp. Now, while the traditional way of learning offers the students the little scope of engagement, as the dynamics of a traditional classroom comprise students' textbooks and educators for learning. So that is quite the difference between having a class digitally and traditionally. So based on their observation, these are the differences of having a class or engaging in the class between traditional and in the digital class. Now, to summarize the different importance, actually there are more benefits of learning inside the classroom. But what I just discussed with you are just the summary of why digital learning is important. Okay, such as it is because it can personalize learning, it can make the students smarter, it makes them think critically about it. It makes the learner more self-motivated. Okay, they can learn more and they can be more interactive through digital learning. It can also expand their learning opportunities. It can develop responsibility in the students. And lastly, it's actually more engaging for the students. Okay, so these are just some of the benefits or pros of digital learning. Now, when it comes to the drawbacks, there are also some common problems faced by students in digital learning. There are actually many, but this one are just some of the listed problems which are actually faced by the students in digital learning. So let's see what these problems that they encounter inside the classroom, so that after I discuss what these common problems are, as an educator, I hope you will have an idea on how you can probably solve this kind of situation or this kind of problem. So the first one there is adaptability to struggle. Now, frankly speaking, switching from traditional classroom and face-to-face instructor is actually very difficult for them when they do that one at first. Why? Because there actually could be many problems which might happen, such as no internet connection, as you can see. And if it's their first time, sometimes they actually are not accustomed to it because their mindset is quite traditional. Therefore, it takes time for them to adapt to the changes which is going on in their environment. So, many students actually, when we started this kind of digital education in the Philippines due to this pandemic, many Filipino students actually struggled in the beginning. There were many problems in the first week with regards to their modules, online learning. They cannot even have a synchronous learning because they actually have many technical problems or technical issues going on in the learning. So, as I have told you earlier, some of the actually one of the main problem is actually when it comes to technical issues. So we actually encountered this problem with our GTU students when they actually taught Filipino students online or virtually. Sometimes the Filipino students will send me a message, I'm sorry, teacher, I cannot have class because our internet connection is not good, or we don't have internet at the moment, or they have some problems with regards to their audio, many technical issues. Now, another reason is that when many learners are not provided with the high bandwidth or strong internet connection, obviously everything will follow, right? Another reason is the weak monitors actually make it hard to follow the course management system, and their learning experience actually becomes problematic. It's not easy for them, since it's their first time, it was not easy for them to follow the different ways on how to do this and that online because there is actually no instructor who is actually telling them on the spot what to do. So it actually makes them not to attend the class once in a while and even not attend the class for the whole time. And the worst, some of them do not even have their own computers. So, in this kind of situation, the only solution is, of course, knowing exactly what kind of technological support they will need, as well as properly equipping themselves for the learning successful completion. So, actually, what we did with our GTU students, in order to solve the problem of the Filipino students, we actually provided them with some of the technological equipments that they can use, such as camera, headphone, okay, so that they can attend the online classes since they are very much interested to attain the Zoom class with their Korean teachers. Okay, another problem, okay, that they actually encountered is, of course, computer literacy. I actually observed this one firsthand when some of the students even doesn't have the basic basic information when it comes to operating some of the computer programs. So they are very much dependent to the adults around them. Without the adults around them, it's not even easy for them to download and open something. Okay, so these kinds of computer literacy is very important when it comes to digital learning. Without this literacy, it will actually make them be lag behind when it comes to learning digitally. Now, another thing, many learners find fixing basic computer problems troublesome. Yes. Why? Because they actually, first and foremost, they even do not know how to solve their own problem. Okay. So sometimes they even get angry. So, since they are angry, they do not know what to do. You know what follows? They do not attend the class. Okay. So they just send a message to their teacher. I'm sorry, teacher, there is a technical problem. Okay. So these kinds of problem, if they don't have the basic knowledge on how to solve it on their own, everything would actually follow. Now, the point there is that having literacy when it comes to computer can actually enhance the students' knowledge in the field, and of course, it would help them participate in online classes without interruptions and hindrances from this computer or from the computer, right? Okay. Now, another common problem faced by the student is time management. Yes, mostly, adults who prefer web-based learning programs for their place and time flexibility, they actually rarely also have the time to take the courses due to their various everyday commitments. This is actually not only true to adults, but also to the young learners. The young learners, if they are not reminded by somebody who is older than them or an adult, they tend to forget their schedule. Okay, so that's the reason why before our GTU students have Zoom classes online, I always send a message to the Filipino students telling them that I hope they do not forget their class at this time or at that time. Luckily, most of them enter on time or at least 1 or 2 minutes late, but the point is at least they enter. Okay. It's actually a very difficult task for e-learners as online courses require a lot of time and of course intensive work. Now, a regular schedule planner would be a significant help to these learners as they could even set reminders for their courses and their assignments. That's the reason why I always also send reminders to them regarding their online schedule. I'm referring to the Filipino students. Okay, another one, another common problem faced by the students in a digital learning class is lack of self-motivation. Now, frankly speaking, if you are not surrounded by your classmates, right, and your instructors in a physical setting, it actually is very tempting to procrastinate, right? So as soon as you saw the bed, I'm going to do my homework later. So the learner actually tends to delay the homework or the activity which should be submitted on time. Therefore, they fall behind and they nurture the idea of giving up, as difficulties in handling a technological medium also seem impossible. So, if they find it very difficult to use the technology, they actually seem to stop and give up. Okay. Therefore, the students need to find the motivation to follow the new educational trends and also properly equip themselves for future challenges in their education and peers. So the only solution is for them to have a positive attitude, which will help them overcome those challenges, right? Because we have to make them understand that it is necessary actually for them to learn in order to reap the e-learning's benefit in the future. Now remember, technology as an educator, okay? Technology is just a tool to enhance the performance. The teacher's role in the growth of a child is still important by helping in building their character and, of course, motivating them as they learn certain concepts digitally. Okay. AI can, of course, take more jobs in the future, but we need more people who can inform meaningful human connection and, of course, can lead the people. So you can see here the digital learning, the present and future of education. As you know, it actually only took one generation for digital learning to be born, to evolve, and even become the norm of higher education. Students today actually expect courses to have at least an online component, if not to be completely online. Now, of course, there are advantages and disadvantages of digital learning. However, it's still up to the teacher to help the students maximize the benefits of learning digitally. With a firm grasp on the concepts and even some of the uh, terminologies associated with digital learning, teachers can be better equipped to help the students succeed and overcome the disadvantages that I have just discussed earlier. Now, in the next part of the lecture, I'm going to discuss in detail the different key terms and concepts in relation to digital education. Thank you.